Get ready, guys. It is time for your weekend review, and I've got Amanda Gynn back with me tonight, and she's going to give us her in-person perspective from being there at SmackDown this past Friday night. Some really good introspective observations that she's going to share with us. You're not going to want to miss this one, everybody. Let's get everything going right after this. So here's something you may not be thinking about. Life insurance. Why do you need life insurance? Well, I can tell you, if you have a family, there's no better thing you can do to protect yourself and your family if something, God forbid, were to happen to you than to get life insurance. Now, I got to admit, it did take a little time for me to come around to life insurance, but I can tell you it is the best thing that I've done for my family because it has provided me with peace of mind. Again, if something were to happen to me, who's going to take care of my family if I'm not able to? And life insurance provides that peace of mind, knowing that if something were to happen to you, your family is going to be taken care of. So who do I recommend? What do I recommend? Well, it's pretty darn simple, guys. Head on over to dreambuilderstrategies.com. That's dreambuilderstrategies.com. You fill out a quick form. You can get a quote. Don't put this off, guys. Don't put yourself or your family in jeopardy if something were to happen to you. Get that peace of mind. Head on over to dreambuilderstrategies.com today.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome, everyone, to your weekend review, our flagship show, where we talk about everything that happened this past week in WWE. Now, as always, I want to preface this by saying we do cover SmackDown much more heavily than we do Monday Night Raw. Now, Michael Ritter does an excellent job covering SmackDown, but since it's the freshest in our mind and you haven't heard our perspective yet, that's why we focus more on SmackDown. But we do cover Monday Night Raw, the big points especially, so no worries there. But if you want your full Monday Night Raw review, we have an entire show for that dedicated to Monday Night Raw. But again, thank you for joining me here as we are on the week before Survivor Series. Unbelievably, Survivor Series is just, a week and a half, or no, rather than not a week and a half, less than a week away. As we now transition, I'm recording this on a midnight Monday morning, so technically it's 6 days away. But that is crazy just how quickly time flies. And then we're into maybe TLC season, if that happens, and then Rumble, and then bam, we're in WrestleMania. So if you didn't already think your life went fast enough, well, I probably just sped it up for you. So guys, we're going to get to Amanda in just a minute with her in-person perspective of being there live in not Norfolk. She will not accept that pronunciation. It's Norfolk. So there is a difference, I promise you. And we get the official pronunciation by Amanda, a resident of Norfolk, Virginia, in just a couple of minutes here. But first, I'd like to invite you, if you haven't already, to check out our Patreon page, because in there for $1 a month, essentially no money, you get to get into our ad-free library, all of our shows with no ads at all. So the ads you heard at the beginning of the show don't exist here at the Patreon feed. So that's one thing. You get access to our Discord server, which is just like kind of a hangout for all of the patrons to talk about wrestling at any time. A shout out on this show. And if you go up in tier, you get to come on the show and host one with me. So not a bad deal there. And also an Apple Podcast, it's available to you as well. At least the ad-free portion, which is a 7-day free trial and then $2.99 a month. So pretty good there because it's integrated directly with Apple. So that's the advantage. People ask, oh, why do you charge more? Well, it's convenience, right? Because you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to download an extra app. It's right into your iPhone. You just click subscribe and that's literally it. So, okay, that's enough of that. Before we get into this, guys, here's the schedule for the rest of the week. Tuesday, which is in 2 days, I'll be doing the Monday Night Raw review. Tomorrow night, Anthony DeMarco and I will be covering the What If. And tomorrow night, the What If topic is, what if Ronda Rousey returned to WWE? So that's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. Wednesday is your mailbag. Please feel free to send in your questions or your voicemails to us. And then that'll close out my portion of the week until, of course, we get to Saturday night, which will be our preview and prediction show for Survivor Series. And then Sunday, of course, is the big pay-per-view. So big pay-per-view week coming up, which means less sleep for me, more audio for you. And that's a good thing, because I love doing this even if I fall asleep half the time. I'm not kidding you. And I don't mean that as I'm bored doing this, but during my free time after playing dad and doing my big boy job, this is what I do. And sometimes I fall asleep. That has happened. Good thing I don't do this show live. I'll just say that. It's all pre-recorded, pre-edited. You guys don't hear or see the behind-the-scenes stuff. But anyway, one last plug, and then I promise I'm getting to Amanda, is if you want to see a little more video, I am on TikTok, believe it or not. Yes, I'm on TikTok. No, I'm not doing any cringeworthy or embarrassing dance moves. I'm actually doing just kind of a quick wrestling updates and just things that are going on in my commentary on it. You can follow me on TikTok at, you guessed it, the WWE Podcast. How these names are not taken already is just beyond me. Beyond me, I gotta say. Like, how are these names still available with millions of people on there? But right now I only have about 136 followers. So in order for you guys to stroke my ego and make sure that I can validate myself as a person that contributes to society, I need you to up my follower count, because that's how we value ourselves as human beings now. So 136 is just not acceptable. It's not. I feel less of a human being. But anyway, okay. See, I told you I'm tired. Anyway, last thing, shout out to Brad, who had a great conversation with, new patron of the show, and just had a great conversation. I'll just say that, and loves what we do, and I appreciate him as well. So, all right, let's get to it. Amanda, Gynn, and myself talking about this week in review, really focused on her in-person experience with SmackDown, which was really interesting to hear. Just so much you miss at the at-home watching of the show that you don't get to see, obviously, being there in person. Just a great conversation, and really enjoy talking with her. So here we go. Right now, as always, I'll talk to you next time. Welcome to your week in review. I've got Amanda Gynn with us here tonight to discuss, of course, this week in wrestling and WWE. But she also attended SmackDown Live this week, and we're going to get into her experience there, what she saw, what she heard, and that's a lot, trust me. So, Amanda, welcome back to the show. I'm really glad you could be able to join me tonight.
Hello.
Yeah, no, and guys, don't forget, she also does our news brief. So if you want to keep up on the latest news, I just released one earlier this morning for the latest news. It's definitely worth checking out, with one of the topics being the real life heat between Becky and Charlotte, and Becky speaking out on it. It's pretty revealing, which makes the Survivor Series match between the two all the more interesting for real reasons. So go check that out, and I think you'll enjoy it. And Amanda, let's just jump right in here. I mean, you attended SmackDown on Friday, and give us your overall experience in the arena and leaving the show, and just kind of high level. Did it exceed your expectations? Did it not? What did you feel?
I feel like, for one, it definitely exceeded my expectations. As I've said in the past, that I've been to quite a few shows in the area, and I don't know what it was about this show. I don't know if it's because this was the first live event in the area since the pandemic, or because of the card lineup, but I have never been to a show where it was so loud. I mean, from the pre-shows I'll talk about the two awesome matches, the pre-shows we had up until the dark match that we had. I mean, most of the crowd was standing on their feet the whole night, screaming. You'd be surprised at who they were cheering for and who they were booing. But I mean, it made it felt like a pay-per-view and not a regular SmackDown show.
That's the atmosphere I got sitting at home. I'm thinking to myself, whoa, what is going on? I mean, you guys were hot from start to finish, and that's not a complaint. It adds so much to the show, and it reminds you of the good old days of the Thunderdome and all the controlled crowd noise, and you would long for these days of fans going crazy in an arena. And you guys, it was almost like being back in the Attitude Era where every show, every crowd was white hot. You guys were loud as hell, and that was great. So I guess let everyone know where your seats were so we can kind of settle into your perspective here. You were up in the upper tier.
Yes, we were in the upper tier, which was surprising. I mean, for us being upper tier, we actually could see everything really good.
Yeah, no, that's good. And people always sometimes, oh, I don't want to be in the upper tier. I'm like, I've sat in the upper tier many times, and sometimes I prefer it, and because you do get a much better perspective of the whole scene of what's going on, and you get to see the crowd as well. You're not involved in the chaos. Sometimes you can kind of sit back and watch the place go crazy, which adds another level of excitement. But okay, so we got where you are. We get the atmosphere. What kind of demographics are we talking about here? Was it a lot of families? Was it mixed? Was it a lot of men, 18 to 40 or 18 to 35, their key demo? What did you see in terms of the people around you?
It actually was a good mixture of everything. I did see a good amount of family. So I would say guys probably into their late 30s, early 40s, kids. Young kids, I would say maybe between the ages of 6 to 10, and then a lot of teenagers, a lot of like a group of guys, probably like mid to late 20s, early 30s. Even I saw a good group of, probably single females that went as a group all together. It was a really good mixture of a crowd. But the one thing that really stuck out to me was I told my husband, I said, my God, I cannot believe all of the young kids wearing Roman Reigns shirts. I only counted one kid that I saw in a New Day shirt.
Oh, that brings a tear to my eye. Or as Jim Ross would say, it'll bring a tear to a glass eye. I mean, it really does. Like that makes me so happy to hear that. And the T-shirts they were wearing, though, I hope, now this is a key answer here. There is a right answer. If they're wearing the old Roman Reigns babyface T-shirts, that doesn't count. If they're wearing the head of the table or bloodline T-shirts, then you make me happy.
Almost 99% of them were either bloodline T-shirts or bloodline hoodies.
Excellent. That I want to stand up and applaud all of the parents, and not the kids, because the kids aren't the ones buying them. They're the ones who are wearing them. But applaud the parents here. You guys are in Virginia and in Norfolk. You guys kick ass. I mean, that's awesome. Thank you so much for breeding the correct version of a wrestling fan and not supporting the New Day. So that's very good to hear. And so it sounds like a good mixture. It sounds like it was kind of male, female, families, single people, and that's great. That really speaks volumes, pun intended, I guess, to how loud people were, but also kind of in unison cheering for people that maybe they shouldn't have been cheering for, like Roman Reigns. And I don't want to get into his segment just yet, but in terms of just the reaction when he came out, I want to ask you, because it came across on TV like he was turning into a babyface. It sounded like he was kind of, if this was the designed story, and it's not, but if you didn't know anything and you just saw Roman come out, you'd be like, oh man, you hear some boos, but it sounded like there's a kind of that beginning of a turn to a babyface for Roman. Maybe I'm wrong, but what was the cheer to boo ratio for Roman when he came out?
For those of you guys who follow me on Twitter, I mean, you could, for one, hear the video that my husband recorded of us, and that's why my voice sounds like this. But the reaction that Roman got at our arena is what I would compare to what Edge got returning, or if Rock came out, or Stone Cold.
Wow.
There was not one person there that was sitting down. Now, we watched the show when we got home just to kind of see how the reaction was, and I did hear piped in boos. I will tell you right now, I did not hear a single person booing Roman Reigns.
So, wow. Okay, so what I heard, according to, I mean, you know better than I would, you're the one who was there. What I heard at home, the boos I heard at home were manufactured, according,
Yes.
that's, wow. And you know what, I I actually give WWE credit for that. Normally, I really despise when they try to control what people are doing because we're told so often, oh, you guys have a voice. It's who you cheer and who you boo. That, that you guys are the ones who hold the keys to the kingdom. And yet they are silencing people from the reaction that is coming across on TV because they don't want that to be the case. And the reason I actually support WWE in this mission is because that's not the narrative right now for Roman. Roman's doing so well, I don't want him to turn babyface. So I actually, in this case, will give WWE a pass. But that said, the reaction for Roman, again, still came across very positive when he came out, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, man. I mean, are we at the point of just turning him babyface, or are we, I didn't know. But so you're saying audibly, you didn't hear one person booing him or yelling at nothing?
No, not at all. And like you said, I have to give WWE credit where credit is due, because not only are they protecting Roman as being a heel, they're also having to protect Xavier Woods, because they really fixed it very well. Because the way the crowd booed Xavier, I was actually really surprised. I figured it would be kind of like a mixed reaction. I never anticipated for Roman's reaction to be as huge as it was, and for Xavier to get it booed as bad as he did.
That is a really good point, and I'm glad you brought it up about Xavier. So Xavier got it almost seems like it was then reversed for the reaction that WWE wanted. The exact opposite sounds like what they got in the arena was not what they wanted. So you're saying that Xavier got pretty heavy boos. You're saying that
did. Yeah. And it's funny because when we actually first got into the arena, before the even show started, somebody tried to do a New Day Rocks chant. And the crowd turned so quickly and did a New Day sucks. I felt so bad for the person that probably started. I said the guy probably got scared to death and left the arena.
Oh my God. Oh my, that's I love it. I love it. Can I just be like, can you guys just adopt me as a like a, I don't know, an honorary member of Virginia just for like the week or something? I'd love to. You guys, man, that's so awesome. You guys are. And again, you're one city in one show. We'll see if this trend continues or not. But again, we don't know what WWE is shielding from us because of the post-production edits and the booing and the volume of who the crowd and who they want to come across on screen and all that. So, of course, we're getting an edited kind of filtered version of what they want us to hear. But that is really exciting to hear that Xavier got absolutely destroyed by the audience. That makes I'm having such a great time right now imagining that. And so that said, I got to ask you, because your husband is not necessarily a big wrestling fan, right?
He teeter-totters, he's slowly coming around, because when he first started watching it again, because we were casual for a while, and then during the pandemic, we really started watching it a whole lot more. He was commenting a lot about how the storylines are stupid and stuff like that. And then when he really started paying attention to Roman Reigns, he's like, all right, I think I can kind of get into this guy. But yeah, I mean, he really surprised me, because the whole day I kept asking him, I'm like, are you excited? Are you excited? And he's like, yeah, I guess. And I'm just like, all right, look, I bought these tickets. I need you to get a little bit more excited now. And once we actually got to the show, he really surprised me. I mean, he was really getting into it. Oh my God, when Roman came out, he lost it.
Wow. So he got just as excited as you did.
Mm-hmm.
That's
maybe even a little bit more.
Oh my God. Well, that's great. I mean, anytime anybody, whether it's family, friends, whatever, can bond over wrestling, especially at a show, I mean, that's always the best. And we don't all have wrestling fans in our lives that we can do that with. I mean, I feel like I'm on an island of non-relevancy, to pun Roman Reigns, because I don't have a whole lot of friends that love wrestling. They'll look at me and, they'll say, oh, you still watch that fake stuff? I mean, as a wrestling fan, I hear it all the time. And it's just, to me, it's such an empty, point to make, because I just say, well, I'm sorry, are you watching a TV show or movie that's real? Or is that what you're telling me, right? Like every TV show, most of them, and every movie that's been created, most of them have been all, of course, just produced, and they're not actually happening in real time. But nonetheless, so let's get into SmackDown, of course. And as we review SmackDown a little bit, of course, we'll touch on Raw a little bit, as we always say, because Raw is important. But since you were at SmackDown, I want your in-person perspective as we go through. Absolutely feel free to not only answer my questions, but just throw in your live experience with that particular segment if you feel the need. So, okay, so let's where do I want to start? This is kind of jump around a little bit, but Sonya Deville, I want to start with her here, and I want to start with Aaliyah and the Women's Survivor Series team, because Sonya Deville has been screwing with Naomi for quite a while, and I gotta say, I'm one that has been enjoying the whole thing. I think WWE has done a nice job with Sonya Deville and Naomi. I really do. I know some people don't, and that's cool, but I think that I'm on the long road for this. I like long story arcs that have a payoff, and I'm rooting for Naomi. I want to see Naomi take down Sonya. We're not there yet, but in this case, we had Sonya Deville remove Aaliyah from the Survivor Series team. No replacement announced, but she was removed after she got the victory over Natalya in the 3-on-3 women's tag team match. So that first point, what did you think about that in terms of Aaliyah, who most people don't know up until today, or rather Friday night? What did you think about Sonya Deville removing Aaliyah and really the tag team match that took place there?
Well, to kind of go back and forth, so with the tag team match specifically, I think the crowd was really surprised at how good Aaliyah was, and they really were behind her. And it kind of sucks the way WWE had, because I know they have to do so many commercials because of marketing and this and that, but a lot of the really good stuff that Aaliyah was doing was actually doing the commercial breaks. So I felt like the fans watching at home didn't really get the good parts of the match because of the commercials, but everybody was really behind her. I mean, I was really surprised at how good she actually did in that match.
I'm with you, and I haven't seen a whole lot of Aaliyah. The only thing the announcers told us while she was in that match is that she wanted to be here for a long time, and that it took her 7 years to get here, and she started at 19, and this was her dream to be here, and she did very well. What I really found funny, though, at the beginning of this match, where we had Sonya Deville, actually, she opened SmackDown, and she had I think she had Natalya there, and she said that as she's introducing everybody like it's some kind of, community theater play, everyone, steps forward and takes a bow, which, again, not my format at all. But we had Sonya Deville announce Natalya as one of the winningest women on the roster. And I'm like, no, actually, no. Like, Natalya is a perennial loser, constantly loses, especially over the last several years. And not only that, hilariously, she ends up losing the match. So I found that kind of funny. Yeah, so Aaliyah, though, did a nice job. I think that she did put herself on the map, and it established her as one of the women on the roster. I had no problem with it. Having Sonya take her out of the Survivor Series team is nothing more than punishment, because, of course, it's punishment by proxy, because we have Naomi, who's on her team, also get the victory, which, again, that's just Sonya Deville abusing her power. And Aaliyah, who was getting interviewed backstage afterwards, was really excited and all this, and how this is like her best moment of her career or whatever. And then after Sonya made the announcement that she's out of the team, it's like she lost her, like someone stole her puppy or something. I mean, I have to say, as great as she was in the ring, she overacted a bit at the end of that, where she just, it looked like she was the last person to be chosen in gym class or something, just kind of standing there with her, pouty face. I wasn't a big fan of that. It was a little bit of overacting. But what did you think about that segment with Sonya Deville once again abusing her power?
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think she's did a phenomenal job in the ring, but as you say, she definitely needs to go to promo school a
Yep.
little bit. I wasn't a fan of the overreacting. I really do think she could really have a good career in WWE. She needs a little bit more on the mic, which is given. She's very new to the company. Coming from NXT and this, that, and sort. But I really like what they're doing with Sonya and the drama that they're having with her and Naomi and this, like, but I'm getting to the point where I'm ready for them to have a program with me because I feel like if WWE drags their feet for too long, fans are going to start turning against it.
Yeah, they probably are. I mean, for at least the night, though, then the purpose was for this match, and I think they did that in a nice way, and the mission accomplished was to at least introduce her to fans and make her a player on the team. That's really the purpose here, instead of just this nameless, faceless, pretty face walking backstage and flirting with, I don't know, Jeff Hardy or Sami Zayn or Ricochet, which was, by the way, when we had Ali come up and I guess presumably just try to make his move, but maybe just being a good friend. And then we had Ricochet come in, and Ricochet, he said something about, oh, just keep your head up high, or some kind of just awful empty platitude. And she ends up saying, after, I think Ricochet said something to the effect of, keep your head up high and, just keep moving forward and you'll have a great career, something to that effect. And then she looked at him with like big doe eyes, and she's like, you really think so? And she just like walked off with him. And I'm like, this is just, again, the acting was god awful, and the lines on top of it were just so elementary. It's just, and it also kind of made her look like this kind of, I don't know, this kind of dumb schoolgirl type of stereotype, and it was just not good. After she had this victory, and we're told she spent 7 years grinding to get here, and yet she just is wooed by some empty words. It was ridiculous on that. Do you have anything to say on that part of it?
Yeah, because there were certain parts where when they were doing promos and stuff like that, it was kind of hard for us to hear it in the arena because I guess it was the way they had the audio set up. So I actually had to watch it at home, and then it was just really cringeworthy when I watched it from home. I said maybe it's a good thing we did all hear the audio.
Yeah, that actually is one thing. I'm glad you weren't exposed to that in the arena, and it was one of those things at home that, I mean, I cringed. I was like, like you just had such a good in-ring experience. You got your massive victory. You're introduced to the fans, and then boy, they shot that down real quick with the acting ability. But again, I'm not saying this stuff is easy. In-ring is one thing. Personality and promos is a whole different ballgame. It's not easy. I think it is actually harder than in-ring. I truly believe that, is to be able to feel comfortable and all that kind of stuff. So that it could come with time. I'm not destroying this, but for the moment, it was very cringeworthy. So let me ask you this, though. What do you think about the whole Naomi and Sonya Deville dynamic? Do you think that eventually Naomi will force Sonya to get into the ring? Are you enjoying that story? Are you not? What do you think?
I am enjoying it. I think WWE is going to try and play it out for as long as they can. I don't know if they're maybe making it possibly a WrestleMania match, because I think once Sonya is actually back in the ring, it's going to be a very big deal. So I don't know if they're waiting for the right pay-per-view for it to happen, but I'm definitely waiting for it to happen. I just hope WWE, like I said previously, doesn't drag their feet and make fans wait for too long, because then I don't think they're going to enjoy it as much as they could, excuse me. I'm just really trying to figure out when they're going to do it.
You're right. It could be WrestleMania. We're at the point in the year now where there are some few storylines that will make it from now to WrestleMania. Like every time Survivor Series comes around, there are sometimes stories that run from Survivor Series to Mania. They're not a lot of them. Almost all of them don't. But I do look at Survivor Series as kind of like the unofficial beginning of WrestleMania potentials, and it could go all that way. It could, but I don't know if in the the attention span that society and viewers have now, that they would care in another 4 months or whatever it is to when WrestleMania comes around. They'll probably just be like, oh, that's still going on, who cares? So I think based on that people don't have the attention span, and Vince doesn't have the foresight or the patience to go that long, I think it'll probably be at the next pay-per-view beyond Survivor Series. People are saying that TLC is not happening anymore. It's filled by another pay-per-view, or there might not even be a pay-per-view in December. So if that's the case, then it could be Rumble. At the very latest, I think this is resolved at the Royal Rumble. We don't even have a reason why, by the way. And I like the announcers. They're not even saying why. Why is Sonya Deville targeting Naomi? It doesn't make sense. And I'm glad they're bringing that up. As far as the other competitors go, Shotzi, I think, is doing, she had a nice week last week. She ditched the tank. Maybe they listened to the show. I don't know. I'm glad they got rid of the tank. And then Shayna Baszler, who is unfortunately being faded into the background again. And then Sasha Banks, who is a babyface because why? I don't know. Because she gets beat up by Shotzi Blackheart one week. She's suddenly a babyface. Let me ask you that specifically. What was the reaction for Sasha Banks? Was it heel baby kind of in between?
She actually got a very big baby face pop. It was very, very big on Sasha.
Okay. So mission accomplished, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Fine. I mean, I'm more of a Sasha Banks heel fan. I think she is way better as a heel. I never enjoy her as a babyface. It never feels comfortable. And we never get an explanation either why she's a babyface. This happened with the whole Bayley and her program from a year or so ago. We never got an explanation. We're just supposed to, by default, start cheering for her because she gets beat up. I mean, that's the other explanation. So she turns babyface by just getting her ass kicked. That's how they have essentially turned her the last two times. But anyway, all right, moving on. Let's talk about, let's get to this. Charlotte Flair and her promo that she gave. And we'll get to Toni Storm, but her promo that she gave about Becky Lynch, I mean, I don't know how it came across in the arena, and if you've watched it back, of course, that's a different way to view it. But while you're in the arena, could you guys feel the kind of like the real sense of what she was saying? It didn't feel like a promo from her. It felt like she was actually trying to take shots at Becky about how, she went from the last kicker to two belts, or Becky 2 belts, or the main event, whatever. She went through all of her iterations of her personality, and she says, so I don't know who you are, Becky. And I'm thinking to myself, well, Charlotte, like, that's called evolution of a character. That's smart. Like, that's, if I was Becky, I would have been like, and wait a minute, okay, Charlotte, you've been the queen, you've been telling us to bow down to you for what, 7 years? So that's not, she tried to make it a shot at Becky. I don't think it was really a shot, because that's what you do and how you progress in this business is by evolving. So she tried to make it that way, and I don't think it came up that way. But anyway, she continued to take shots at Becky Lynch. How did you take this promo? How did the people around you take this promo? What were your thoughts on that? Have you ever felt like there's something that you want to do, you should do, but you can't for some reason, and your inner voice is telling you, look, you gotta do it? That's how I felt with this podcast. I really did. I knew that I always wanted to podcast. I had a passion for wrestling, but there was something inside that was blocking me from doing it. Fear of failure, fear that I might sound bad on microphone. And there's all these things that I just knew that were my own creations, my own fears, that were the problem. I was getting in my way, and I was doing that for years when I could have been doing what I love, had someone been there to help guide me through this. And that's where a life coach could have really been beneficial. And that's why I'd recommend a life coach to everyone listening, regardless of what you want to do in life, regardless of what your situation is. A life coach can be invaluable. And that's why I recommend Marcie Lesnick. She is a certified life empowerment coach, and she can help with things like sales mindset coaching, healthy relationship coaching, and much more. So go check out innerwarriorcoaching.biz. That's innerwarriorcoaching.biz, where you can get all this information and much more, including a video introduction of Marcie and how she can help you. So, guys, don't wait another minute. Whatever's stopping you, don't let it stop you any further. Go to innerwarriorcoaching.biz.
Welcome back to the WWE podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
So this was another one that I was actually very surprised at, and credit to WWE for fixing it. The crowd was very big on Charlotte. There were not a lot of boos for Charlotte, and the crowd really did participate with the promo that she was doing, especially with the
Yes.
parts. I think if you were a fan that was not paying attention to the backstage drama, I think they would have been not really blindsided, but they wouldn't have known anything different was going on. They would have thought it was just a regular promo that she was cutting. I kind of could see little jabs that she was doing here and there. But I was kind of surprised at some of the stuff Charlotte was saying. You know, she was like, we don't know who you are, and this, that, and the third. I'm like, well, Charlotte, you have a promo in your style and the way you carry yourself. You're very similar to your dad. So you haven't really evolved as a wrestler per se. You do the robe, you do the woos, your entrance music is similar. The way you carry yourself and the way you say that you're the best, you make people this, that, and the third. So I'm really surprised at how she keeps taking shots at Becky, saying she doesn't know who Becky is, where more it's per se, Charlotte, you don't really know who you are.
That's a good point. You know, Charlotte is, and I'm a big Charlotte fan. I really, really enjoy Charlotte. And if the rumors of her wanting to get the heck out of WWE are true, that I'll be sad. Although if she's headed to AEW to be with her fiance Andrade, like I get that, but I hope for her career that she's not committing career suicide all for love. I hope that she's thinking about this long term and not just like so infatuated in the rainbows and butterflies stages of her relationship still, like, oh my God, I just want to be with him. I don't care what it takes. I hope she's thinking this through. And I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt that she is, and she's not trying to commit career suicide. But you're right about her as far as just not really being like, who are you? Like, you know, she's kind of, you know, the pot calling the kettle black here, because if anything, Charlotte, as you said, has taken a lot of stuff from her father, not just the music, but the feathers that she uses to come out when she's actually having a match, the chops. She uses the figure 4, which has evolved into the figure 8. She uses the woos. Like, she is and has taken a lot of the attributes of her father and just kind of absorbed it into her acts. So, and on top of that, there was a point made, I think it was by Alexa Bliss when they had their quick program of, so Charlotte, who are you without the championship? Because it's playing on the whole Charlotte's constantly champion. The fans are tired of her as champion and blah, blah, blah. That's really a wink and a nod to that. But, you know, if Becky was there live, like, she could have destroyed Charlotte back on this. I mean, like, that wasn't a shot at Becky. That was actually a backhanded compliment, if you ask me, about that she's been able and had the ability to evolve and not stay the same, while Charlotte has essentially stayed the same and just hijacked stuff from her father. And who the hell are you without the championship? Like, if I was Becky, that was a low-hanging fruit right there.
Yeah, I'm really anticipating Raw this Monday, because I really hope Becky cuts a promo against Charlotte, because I can't wait to hear what she's gonna say. And
they still have one more week of TV on SmackDown. Maybe they even have, and I don't care if they break the draft rules for this. This to me is an exception. If Becky, you know, they promote that Becky's allowed to come to SmackDown, they have a face-to-face. I don't need a brawl. I don't need somebody going through a table for a contract signing for a match they've already set up, which, by the way, like, has anybody ever had a contract signing that's not been successful? And by the way, why would you announce a match and make it official if the contract signing hasn't happened yet? I mean, sometimes they don't even tell you a contract signing needs to happen, but yet it's official weeks in advance. There's no logic there. But anyway, I just hope somehow they're able to come face to face and have a promo like together and not give them a script, just give them maybe just small bullet points and be like, guys, go at it. I mean, I think that would make for such good TV. I don't know if they'll do it. I haven't heard anything, but you're right. At the bare minimum on Monday, we will get a rebuttal from Becky. I think that's going to be fun because there's a lot of real elements going on here.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised Becky did because of the way the promo Charlotte was cutting on Friday. I'm like, Becky has to come out because the jabs that she's taking at Becky right now.
Yeah.
I told my husband, I said, there's no way Becky is not coming. So I was really surprised that they didn't bring Becky out.
I was almost disappointed. And I am the first person in line to defend the rules of the draft and defend each brand in its own world. Nobody crosses. But there are exceptions to be made. And this would have been one of them where if Becky came through the crowd or did show up, her music hit, whatever, and maybe security's holding her back, I don't know. But she was able to get some words in. This would have been the moment to do it. And I think you guys in Norfolk would have just exploded. I mean, I think even though Becky's quote unquote a heel, I don't think she really is, but you guys would have lost your minds. It's a shame. I was waiting for the same thing because there's a promo and then there's a promo, and it's one of those that you feel is setting up the return. And I was disappointed in that. But of course, the segment did lead to Toni Storm coming out to kind of a mild reaction of like, hey, yeah, we remember you from NXT. And some people probably in the audience like, who are you? And just it was a mild reaction for Toni Storm. And you can speak to that on at least what you heard in person. But Toni Storm got in Flair's face and demanded a title shot. Flair blew her off. And I think that was the right move because people shouldn't just be giving out championship matches, but that's just me. So what was the reaction for Toni Storm and the rest of the segment?
Yeah, it was pretty low to medium, and I make that the fault to WWE because they could have given Toni Storm more TV time because I can't remember the last time I've seen Toni Storm. I think maybe it was during the I'll call it Queen of the Ring tournament. That was the last time I remember seeing Toni Storm. And then before that, it was probably weeks prior. So you can't just randomly bring a star out who you periodically bring on TV and hope to get a bigger crowd reaction out of them. It's just not going to happen. And I'm glad Charlotte did turn her down because the crowd would not have been behind the match at all. The crowd would have just been pro Charlotte the whole entire match.
That's that's a good point. And you guys were just loud as hell anyway. That would have been fun. But it is WWE's fault. And I've said this so many times now, but it's just showing its face again and again that if I was an NXT star, I would want nothing to do with the main roster. And especially if I was successful in NXT and I'm being told that, see how good you are here. Just wait till you see how big of a star they make you on the main roster. I would say, no. I'm good where I am. Leave me alone. I want to stay in NXT. It's like a 10-to-1 ratio of the people they've brought up from NXT to the main roster that have translated into the stars you hope that they would have. I mean, Bianca Belair is the most recent and best example, maybe the best call up that they've ever made, and it's translated beautifully. But everyone else that's come up, at least as of recent, it has not been a great transition. They sometimes just bring them up and they try to figure out what to do with them. They don't know what to do. Keith Lee, gone, right? I mean, I would want nothing to do with the main roster if I'm on NXT. It's a scary place to be. If I got the call up, I would feel like, okay, well, there goes my career.
Yeah, like you said, the Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, Scarlett never showed on the main roster. Like you said, it's really the call of doom. Yeah,
and it shouldn't be. I mean, people should be excited, and at first it felt like it was, and at the same time now fans are kind of hesitant, like, I don't know if I want them being called up, because there's too many examples of Vince getting his hands on it and going, I know what to do with them. They're broken. I'm going to try to fix it. And either they're forgotten week after week after week, or he tries to add silly stuff like Karrion Kross's mask, or they're misbooked, or they're not booked at all. It just Vince and creative they feel like they have to put their fingerprints on something that they don't need to. And I think when Vince sees something that's not his own creation, maybe it's ego, But the reason I think he does it is that he feels it's automatically not a polished performer when they come up to the roster, and that he needs to quote unquote fix them and make them main roster ready. It's like, that's how I feel. And I feel like that formula has failed many, many times. Why else would it, when they're getting an excellent reaction, they're over as hell in NXT, and they come up to the main roster and it's like they just flop, right? So
Yeah, exactly. And not to get off topic, but Karrion Kross specifically, like, he had an amazing thing going on in NXT, and then Vince brings him up to the main roster, and they put him in this god awful, looks like a Hannibal Lecter / Mortal Kombat horrible mask, and everybody's like, "What the hell is this?" And then he's released.
I love it. I mean, I don't love it, but it's exactly what I'm talking about. And it's such a Vince thing to do. He tries to gimmick everything or make everything quote unquote marketable, I think, to try to, we can't just put his face on a t-shirt. He needs something more. And I feel like that's exactly what he thought and creative thought he needed. And he did not need that. And that's just one of the many examples. So, all right, let's get back to SmackDown here. Los Lotharios defeat Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs after hitting a variation of a total elimination. So what was the reaction, again, since you were there, what was the reaction for Shinsuke and Rick Boogs and Los Lotharios?
I will say this, like, I did not imagine the little thing that Rick Boogs does before Shinsuke comes out to actually sound so good live. I kind of thought that was like a TV production thing as to how it sounds on TV, but it sounds so amazing in person. I mean, the crowd went absolutely nuts. And I think seeing Pat McAfee dancing on top of the table just made it 10 times better. But the crowd was really into it. I mean, I just can't put into words just how awesome it sounded.
That's cool to hear that. You're right. If you hadn't have gone, I would have thought it was a bit of a TV post-production, editing sound, making sure it sounds better than it actually is. But and Pat McAfee is just a wacky dude that, he's to me, he's not Jim Ross, but he's got such a crazy energy. And he says sometimes he says things that are just flat out stupid, but he brings such a tangible energy to the announce booth that was otherwise just kind of rotting away with Michael Cole. And no disrespect to Michael Cole, but we all know who and what he is. He for decades he's been doing this. And but Pat McAfee dancing is always kind of it's cringeworthy, but it's also not. It's weird. Like he's so over the top that I'm just like, this dude's crazy, but I can't stop watching him. Rick Boogs, I did not know that he was that, or at least it sounded that good in person. Shinsuke Nakamura coming out, of course, his music is always just it sticks in your head. It's that song that like you wake up in the morning and you're like, why is this in my head right now? And it's he's got one of those songs. But Los Lotharios here beat Shinsuke and Rick. I believe it was clean, right? There was no hanky panky, no inanimate objects. It was just flat out clean.
And their finisher is actually pretty interesting because it's I don't know what they call it, but it's pretty much one person drop kicks at the top and one drop kicks at the bottom. It's a pretty good finisher. So it actually was a clean finish.
That actually is a pretty big deal because Los Lotharios haven't really been getting a whole lot of victories as of late, and Shinsuke and Rick Boogs, especially in the tag team division, I think they've been elevated over the last several months. And it just seems, especially from a name power perspective, that having these two beat Shinsuke and Rick felt like a big deal. It felt like they actually achieved something here. But do you think that perhaps it's a way to eventually split Rick Boogs into his own act? Like, what do you think is the end game here with Shinsuke and Rick Boogs anyway?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm kind of I'm disappointed, and I like it at the same time what they do with them. I'm disappointed because I don't understand what was the point of giving Shinsuke the title the Intercontinental title if you're going to have him do this tag team thing with Rick Boogs. If anything, you shouldn't have had him have this belt and have them maybe possibly go after the tag team titles. I mean, there's no way they're going to beat the Usos anytime soon, but I'm kind of confused on where they're going to go at this point. I don't think they're going to turn them against each other. So I don't know if maybe they just decided to do this thing and see how the crowd would react to it and say, okay, we'll squash it. We'll let Shinsuke have a program with somebody for the IC title. I'm just kind of perplexed by it. I'm not sure what the direction is going to be at this point.
And you're right. I'm glad you said that because I had forgotten that he's the Intercontinental Champion. I mean, I hear it in Rick Boogs' intro, but it almost gets lost on me because the note that he hits at the end of his entrance. I mean, I cannot, if my life depended on it, hit the note that he hits. Rick Boogs, he's crazy, and I think he's got a really good future ahead of him. But Shinsuke is the Intercontinental Champion, a belt that has more lineage than even the WWE Championship does. And yet it is being lost on Shinsuke. And I don't mean that to Shinsuke disrespectfully as in he doesn't deserve it. I think Shinsuke is a hell of a talent. But rather the creative focus on the Intercontinental Championship itself has been lost. It's been like, oh, yeah, that's right. He's in a tag team, but he's also the IC champion. Like, what? Why are we not focusing on the Intercontinental Championship? He's been doing more tag team stuff as of late. So, yeah, that's a really good point about the IC belt. I think all of a sudden they're going to wake up and go, oh, that's right, guys, crap, we have an IC belt. You know, somebody's going to shake creative or Vince and remind them. It feels like they've just simply forgotten or had nothing for it.
Yeah, and especially with Survivor Series, you know, they're all doing this whole brand versus brand, champion versus champion. Why do they not have him in a matchup against Damian Priest since he's the U.S. champion?
Yeah, I haven't. Maybe that'll be like a Twitter announcement, right? I could see that where they all of a sudden, like the 5 minutes before the show, they're like, just announced, you know, Intercontinental Champion Shinsuke is going to go against the U.S. champion of Damian Priest. And I have no problem with that. And actually, I have been really a fan of Damian Priest as of late, and maybe we can talk about that later. But all right, let's continue on here. Jeff Hardy defeats Sami Zayn after a Swanton bomb. You guys seemed really into Jeff Hardy. I mean, it sounded really good on camera. I'm assuming you're going to confirm that.
Yeah, I think probably the two biggest pops for the night were, first, of course, was Roman, but Jeff Hardy was definitely second. I mean, it was huge. I mean, the crowd was chiming in the entire match. There was not a point in that match where it was quiet.
No, that's what I was thinking. This was pretty deep into the show at this point with Jeff and Sami, and I'm like, how are they still doing this? I mean, I don't know. You know, are they giving beer away free? Like, what's going on? You know, so I'm like, good for you guys. But you guys were super into Jeff, which I'm sure Jeff really appreciated at this point in his career, and how kind of a weird last year and a half to 2 years he's had with, you know, at one point he was Intercontinental Champion, and then he went on like a 2,000 match losing streak, and you know, he's had you talk about roller coaster. This guy has been up and down so many times, it's dizzying. But this match had a stipulation on the line, or at least a consequence on the line, of the person who lost would be removed from the SmackDown Men's Survivor Series team. And Sami Zayn ends up losing this match clean, and we don't have a replacement. Assumingly, they will fill that along with the women's on their side, their vacancy on their team. But having Jeff Hardy take out Sami Zayn here, as Sami Zayn has evolved from the conspiracy theorist into the elder statesman of SmackDown. I guess that's where he's going now. How did the crowd react to Sami Zayn? Sami has really changed his music. His first few seconds of his entrance are the same, but his music has changed. And I think that's a smart idea if you're a babyface, or rather a heel. You don't want to keep your sing-along babyface music. So how did the crowd react to Sami? Positive, negative? Have you ever felt like there's something that you want to do, you should do, but you can't for some reason, and your inner voice is telling you, look, you gotta do it? That's how I felt with this podcast. I really did. I knew that I always wanted to podcast. I had a passion for wrestling, but there was something inside that was blocking me from doing it. Fear of failure, fear that I might sound bad on microphone. And there's all these things that I just knew that were my own creations, my own fears that were the problem. I was getting in my way. And I was doing that for years when I could have been doing what I love, had someone been there to help guide me through this. And that's where a life coach could have really been beneficial. And that's why I'd recommend a life coach to everyone listening, regardless of what you want to do in life, regardless of what your situation is. A life coach can be invaluable. And that's why I recommend Marcie Lesnick. She is a certified life empowerment coach, and she can help with things like sales mindset coaching, healthy relationship coaching, and much more. So go check out innerwarriorcoaching.biz. That's innerwarriorcoaching.biz, where you can get all this information and much more, including a video introduction of Marcie and how she can help you. So guys, don't wait another minute. Whatever's stopping you, don't let it stop you any further. Go to innerwarriorcoaching.biz.
Welcome back to the WWE podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
What they should have done, they actually gave him a negative response. I could hear a couple cheers here and there, but it was mainly boos for him.
Okay. So that was appropriate then. Sami Zayn being
Right.
booed. Okay. All right. So, but overall, I think this is a good match. The result made sense. But I also don't know. I think Sami Zayn to me is a guy that they can make champion if Roman Reigns wasn't such a damn good heel. I mean, Sami Zayn, I feel like while he's on the show every week, I feel like he is and should be elevated to a higher level as a heel. I don't think that he gets really the elevation he deserves. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I know some people don't like Sami Zayn, but anyway, that's just my own particular thoughts. All right, let's get to that main event, which was Roman Reigns versus King Woods. And the stipulation on this one was, of course, the loser had to bend the knee, and which was Roman Reigns. But also, if Roman Reigns lost, he would not only lose the Universal Championship, essentially vacate it, but be banished from SmackDown. Immediately you knew that there's no way Roman Reigns can lose this match. Immediately
Exactly.
You're thinking there is just no way he can lose the match. And lo and behold, guys, he loses the match. But I guess we're not supposed to count a DQ as a loss, even though, again, on the record, King Woods beat Roman Reigns. And maybe they'll follow. Maybe that was the point. Maybe they'll bring that up next week. I have my doubts. My very, very severe doubts that they're going to even look past this and just say, the fans don't care. There wasn't a real loss. Well, no, it was a loss. But we did have Roman Reigns essentially in a pinning predicament with King Woods hitting his springboard elbow drop across the ring, as Pat McAfee said, coast to coast. Apparently he thinks it's Shane McMahon now. And he had Roman Reigns down, and the referee was counting 1, 2. The Usos interfere, and then we got the beatdown, which caused the DQ. Which I have problems with this, and you saw me tweet it out, and maybe some other people did too. Not only did Roman Reigns lose the match, which I think was not a good look, but also we had King Woods perceived to be on toe-to-toe with and on equal footing with Roman Reigns, where he had him beat clean, fair and square. In what universe is Xavier Woods on par with Roman Reigns? What, because he won a make-believe tournament that has no real consequence and he's playing dress-up every week? No. Like, I had real problem with this, that Roman Reigns lost. They don't acknowledge the loss. And then they have also Woods apparently be in a position that he had Roman Reigns beat. Look, they have done such an excellent job with Roman over the last 16, 17 months. They finally had a stumble here. That's in my estimation. What did you guys think?
Yeah, and to start off, I really don't understand why they decided to start this program with Xavier and Roman Reigns with Survivor Series so close. Like, in my eyes, you should be building the heat between Roman and Big E, because you're doing this whole champion versus champion bragging rights, blah, blah, blah thing. So I don't understand why, first of all, they were doing this storyline so close to Survivor Series. And I kind of felt like WWE was doing a lot of disservice to Xavier, because during the commercial breaks, there were a lot of parts in the match where Xavier was really giving some good hits to Roman. But of course, they want to paint Roman in the light to where he's unbeatable. Nobody's going to touch him. And that's more of a disservice to Xavier, because I was like, okay, you built him up to win this tournament, and now you're going to have him just get demolished by Roman Reigns. He's just going to fade into the background.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. This one was a really weird one, and you guys seemed pretty hot. As you mentioned, you guys were really pro-Roman and anti-Woods, and that didn't come across super loud. Again, if you've watched it back, you could generally tell that was the sound, but it wasn't very pronounced. And it's obviously clear now that there was some post-editing done to kind of mute that for the rest of the millions of people watching. But yeah, this was weird. I do have to say, having Roman Reigns wear the crown actually looks good. Like I really liked Roman Reigns wearing that crown. I hope he just takes it from Woods, and there's no give backs, and that he just wears it every week, because he doesn't actually look like he's somebody playing king. He actually looks like he could be a king. I mean, he looks like he could be on the movie set or on Game of Thrones or like some TV show. That he's very convincing, and it actually looked good. He doesn't look like he was playing dress up like Xavier Woods, like he went to Spirit Halloween and just picked this up. It looked really good, and I just hope that maybe it goes somewhere, maybe it doesn't, and Xavier has his crown back next week, and we have insufferable Kofi Kingston back, and all the whole crew's back together throwing pancakes again. But I don't know. For at least that moment, that was the one good thing that came out of it. Is yes, Woods is really good in the ring. I gotta give him that. There's no issue. Woods is really good in the ring, and he is, in terms of in-ring psychology and timing. He's really good. But it's just made no sense from a character perspective that he's got Roman Reigns beat. Like, he's got him beat clean. Yeah, Brock Lesnar couldn't beat him, and Kevin Owens couldn't beat him. John Cena couldn't beat him. But, oh, man, Xavier Woods is your kryptonite. It's that was just ridiculous. Do you think that they'll ever follow up on the whole fact that Roman's actually lost the match? Or are they just going to overlook it?
I don't know. I'm really perplexed at what they're going to do with it. Honestly, I think if WWE is just smart, they'll just kind of have Roman take this crown and just run with it and see how far he can go. At the same time, I'm kind of like, you guys just did this similar thing not too long ago when, we had King Corbin and Shinsuke stole the crown from him, and Baron Corbin became Bum Corbin. So I'm like, what's the point of having somebody win the King of the Ring for somebody to steal their crown and then they just be demolished?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. They do seem to have a recycling of stories that they try to not make look like it's recycling, but it's exactly what it is. It's just different players who are doing the same thing. And in this case, I think that, again, Roman looks really good with it. Out of everyone that's ever worn a silly crown, Roman actually fits the bill, and I like it. But I actually believe that, and I'm not going to give WWE the benefit of the doubt because they've never shown me a reason to over the last several years that they are going to even explain why that Roman lost the match, yet it's not really a loss, and he doesn't have to fulfill his oral contract that Paul Heyman said is binding in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's actually true. I'm sure he actually did his legal research. I actually do believe that in the Commonwealth of Virginia, there is an oral agreement as a binding legal agreement. I do believe that.
It is.
Yeah.
He did his research.
Yeah, I knew it. The guy, yeah, it wasn't just some kind of line he threw out there, and it actually was true. So, oh boy. Okay. So that, as far as the events of SmackDown, I think the events anyway, and of course I'll give you a second or a few minutes if you'd like to add anything about the show I didn't cover. But Was there anything I missed on SmackDown?
No, I think that covers it. I will say, I was actually very surprised. We had two actually pre-show matches. I know in the past when I went to wrestling events, we never had pre-show matches. So, and we actually had NXT star pre-show matches.
Whoa. What were they?
So the first match was a tag match. It was the Viking Raiders versus Carmelo Hayes, and I can't remember the guy's name that works with Carmelo Hayes. Is probably going to scream at me right now for not remembering his name. And they actually did a damn good match. I mean, I wish you guys could see that on TV because that was a really good match. And then they had female match. It was Cora Jade and Dakota Kai. That was another really good.
That's that, like you said, I don't know, and I haven't been to an actual live event in a long time either. It's been years since I've been to a live event, and if I wasn't married with two young kids, I would be making my way down to the Barclays Center this or next Sunday. Like I mean, it's with it being 3 hours away from me, like that's not very far. I mean, but again, life, right? So, I have not seen in terms of at least pre-show where they have NXT be the pre-show. Is that typical? Is it typical that, I mean, I haven't talked to too many people, again, going to too many live events. I don't know if that's typical now. Yeah,
I don't know either. Because like I said, it's been a couple years since I've been to a live show too. So I'm not sure if it's something new that they're doing to kind of bring more momentum and publicity for fans to be interested in NXT. But my thing is, if you're going to do matches like that, you definitely should kind of tie it in the SmackDown on TV, because you're not going to do much of the fan service if only fans at live events are going to see it, when really they should see them on TV too.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of some ancillary things about the show, because I'm interested about this stuff, is merchandise. Did you see the merchandise stand? Did you purchase at the merchandise stand?
But did not. Those prices were outrageous. Now, I actually got me and my husband some shirts before the show because they had a special on WWE shop, and they were selling T-shirts at $35 pop.
What? Oh my God.
I have never seen shirts that I remember. I think I ever paid for a shirt at a show years ago was maybe like $25, $27. And then I think if you were higher than a size 3X, I think you had to pay more than that.
What? I mean, did they have half the shirts on the cargo ships, out in California? Like, where that is just absurd. I mean, the percentage wise, that's like a 50% increase in price from some of the other shirts. That's insane. They sell the shirts because, like, my husband's Roman Reigns shirt specifically, I got it for like $22. Where that same shirt at the merchandise stand was $35. Yeah, that's just criminal. But people pay it. I mean, people are paying it.
Oh God, yeah, they did. I was surprised at some of the shirts they had. They had, of course, the Bloodline shirt. They had Cena shirt, RK Bro. I was actually surprised they were selling a Brock Lesnar shirt. No New Day shirts, no Big E's, no nothing for Xavier Woods, anything like that. They had the plastic title belts, the Cena towel, and I think that was it.
And did they sell out of anything? Did you notice that or no?
I'm not sure, but I do know that the lines were outrageous. Every time, like if we would go run to like the bathroom or something like that, the line would be like down the other side of the arena.
Mm-hmm. So it's still okay. Yeah. Usually if tip to anybody that hasn't been to a live event, if you want to get your merchandise, do it either before the show or do it during the show. Don't do it during breaks. don't do it. Like, you got to do it when you feel like there's something going on in the arena that maybe everyone else wants to see, but you're willing to sacrifice that to go get merchandise. That is really your only times. But so did they sell the championship belts there? Did they have those up there that you could purchase for probably your firstborn child? I'm guessing.
They were actually only selling the plastic ones. I guess you could get at like Walmart or Target or something. And I want to say those were $30. Maybe they were $35 too. Because I remember somebody was asking if they were selling the replica belts. They was like, no, you can only buy those on WWEshop.com.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's probably that's really actually that's never been the case. Every time I've been to an event, they've always had the replica belts, and they are marked up even more, where it's like $500 or something absolutely insane, where on WWE Shop it's like, maybe $300, $350, and they mark it up like an additional 100 or so. But yeah, I mean, those plastic ones, like you said, where I almost said KB Toys. Anybody that knows, like that, some people are like, "What the hell's KB Toys?" It's an extinct toy store. Let me just say that. If you grew up in the '90s, you know what I'm talking about. But KB Toys had like those belts and a lot of other wrestling action figures and things. But yeah, so okay, cool. I was always interested in the merchandise and in that kind of stuff. Was there anything else that happened at the show that maybe we don't think we saw on TV, or anything interesting that you wanted to bring up as far as your in-person experience?
Yeah, so two things. I'm actually credit to Roman Reigns because during the commercial break, right before I went to the commercial, the first time that he actually put Xavier Woods through the table and went to commercial, and everybody in the crowd was chanting, one more time, one more time. And he actually picked him up. Like, he looked like he was about to rock bottom him through the table. And he stopped and did the no finger. Of course, damn, we wish he had done it. But I give him credit to actually staying in heel character and not giving the crowd what he wanted. And then when they went to another commercial break, right before the Usos came. So we had saw a bunch of, they actually looked like production people. And it was a group of maybe like almost 10 of them walking to the ring. And a lot of us were like, what are they doing? And we never noticed two people going under the ring. So it actually was the Usos. And they actually had hid under the ring for a little bit. And then, of course, came up and interrupted during the match. And then for our dark match, which I'm really intrigued why they did this. Our dark match was Charlotte Flair versus Sasha Banks for a championship contenders match. And I said, okay, I don't understand why they're calling this a champions contenders match when Charlotte and Sasha are not even in a program right now. So I'm like, well, what are they going to do? Like, 2-3 months from now? Oh, yeah. Remember that time, Charlotte, when I beat you in Norfolk, Virginia for a championship match? I'm ready for my match. I'm like, I don't get why they called it that when they're not going to follow up on it.
That makes no sense. None. Like, not only, so there was, let me get this straight, a championship contenders match that between Charlotte and Becky that they advertised.
Oh no, it was Charlotte and Sasha.
Charlotte and Sasha. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so I was surprised they had Sasha actually fight twice in one night, and that match almost went on for about 25 minutes. It was a damn good match, but I just don't get why they called it a championship contenders match, knowing there's not going to be any follow up. And I do know I heard a couple of fans were actually pissed off because they had originally advertised for the show. It was supposed to be Roman Reigns and the Usos versus Drew McIntyre and Viking Raiders. And, of course, a lot of people don't pay attention that a card is always subject to change. So when they had the Viking Raiders in a match with Carmelo Hayes and his partner for the pre-show, I told my husband, I said, well, I wonder what the the dark match is going to be, because they also did advertise Sasha and Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and we just assumed that was going to be on live TV. So we were actually surprised that that was the dark match, and we didn't get to see the or on the card all the entire night.
Yeah, as you said, card is always subject to change. People forget that little asterisk at the bottom of their ticket where it says, the card is subject to change. And I don't know the reason for that. I mean, that's a hell of a little bit of a dark match if they had actually followed through with it. But that stinks. But at the same time, you did get some pretty damn good pre-show matches that I didn't expect to hear about. I mean, you don't see or hear from them, and the fact that they did the Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks Championship Contenders match, like you said. Okay, Sasha wins, but nobody at home knows that. Only the people in Norfolk. What are they going to? I mean, there is no follow through other than just this is clearly for the crowd, and whatever a championship contenders match means is really, it doesn't mean anything. Why? Because anybody that at any time can just attack a champion and get an opportunity, or they can just come out and challenge them, and ultimately they will be awarded a championship match. And there's no such thing as a number one contender anymore. They're all contenders. The women's division's so thin, everyone's a contender at this point, and there's no tag team division on top of it. So,
oh god,
yeah, I mean that's the other thing. But they did advertise during the show. I'm sure you saw it too on the screen. The tickets, or not tickets, but WrestleMania 38 in Dallas. It's going to be, as everyone knows now, a 2-night event. So it seems as if WWE has taken to heart the fans' request to make this a 2-night spectacle, or as they called it. Hang on, I did type up the word because it was so ridiculous, the word that they used. It was, stupendous. They said it's WrestleMania 38 is, quote, it's going to be the most stupendous 2-night event. And I'm thinking, can somebody who chose stupendous? Can somebody just pick up a thesaurus or just like, if you're in Word, just right click and go to synonyms and choose another word? Amazing, magical, like anything. Stupendous? Am I the only one that finds that word very just kind of stupid?
It's so funny because there was a guy who was sitting behind us who you could tell was definitely enjoying the show, I'll say that. And he said, who writes this theme? And I died. And then I watched SmackDown when we came home that night and actually hear Pat McAfee say it. I said, oh my God, what is happening?
And I'm scared because once they have their tagline for WrestleMania, it doesn't go away. I mean, like, for example, I'm thinking off the top of my head, WrestleMania 21 was big time. Like they're going big time, right? Like, and they find their little slogan and then they stick with it until the pay-per-view's over. So I'm concerned that we're going to hear the word stupendous hundreds of times, from now until WrestleMania. I think that it's just a terrible word. Like, what are we doing? I don't know. I mean, there's 100 other things you could say. Just that other than stupendous, but I don't know, Amanda. Maybe you enjoy the word. Maybe other people out there find the word engaging or unique or whatever. I find it just silly. It's a unnecessarily long word. It's just doesn't sound good. I don't know. So there's no catchiness to it. But maybe they'll alter it between now and WrestleMania. So anything else? I want to give you another opportunity. If there's anything else that happened on the show or in person around you, chance you heard, anything that you wanted to share?
I thought it was interesting. They had Pat McAfee did his McAfee Minute. This was actually in between commercial breaks from Charlotte's promo. And he was, telling the crowd about how hyped and stuff like that. He said, I just wanted to let you guys know that I received 2 FCC complaints for saying Norfolk the way that you guys say it. Now, a lot of people, that are not from here, when you hear Michael Cole say it makes all of us cringe because he actually says Norfolk. It is not Norfolk, it's Norfolk. It almost sounds like you're saying a bad word, but you're not. So that actually got the crowd so hyped that Pat McAfee actually did his research to actually find out how to say the city right.
And it is, you don't, yeah, it is Norfolk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. And Michael Cole, he said, just like, it's kind of the way Michael Cole says WWE, he says WWE. He can't say WWE. And did anybody else notice that? I mean, it's something with Michael Cole that it's one of those things that, like, you're the only one that pronounces a W like that. It's not double U. I know double U. I get it, but W, it's much quicker. It's easier to say. It's almost like you're trying to overpronounce it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny too because my husband hates Michael Cole in the way he talks. And he said, I actually can have Sasha come out twice and not have Michael Cole ruin the experience for me by saying Boston.
Yeah, that is a benefit. Yeah, I mean, as good as the commentary can be, especially from Pat. Yeah, that is an absolute benefit. Is you don't have to hear it's boss time. And when Roman was a babyface, you didn't have to hear Big Dog. I mean, you didn't have to hear that kind of stuff. Yeah, look, Michael Cole, he gets a lot of crap, but he's got so many years under his belt, and he does steer the ship nicely. He is a polished announcer, and he has his quirks and he has his things that are super annoying. But yeah, that is an absolute benefit. I mean, maybe they should make that as part of like the marketing campaign when they're coming to town to purchase tickets. That you know, like one of the benefits of it is you don't have to hear our announcer Michael Cole say, it's boss time. Like maybe even like kind of undermine their own product by saying you don't have to suffer through that. But yeah, no, that's a good point to make. So your husband had a good time as well.
He did. And this is actually his first WWE event, which I was surprised when I first bought the tickets, He said, I said, are you freaking kidding me? I was like, I would have been took you to a show years ago if you had ever told me that when we first were, talking and friends and stuff like that. So I was really glad that he got to enjoy his first experience. He definitely said, we're no longer allowed to sit in the nosebleed. I said, well, you do know when we first looked at the ticket prices, which people don't know this, when we first were looking at ringside, for us, including like the service fees and all that stuff, it was close to like $800.
What? Per ticket?
Yes. Well, I'm sorry. That was actually all together. It was like $800. I told my husband, I said, I feel like I'm buying a ticket for WrestleMania. I'm like, I'm not paying this much money to go sit ringside. Because I told him, I said, years prior, I said the most that I ever paid to sit ringside was like $50. I said, how did it change from $50 to almost $400 a ticket in a 6-year period?
Wow. Well, again, people paid it, and if WWE,
They did.
I guess, well, I do feel bad because they're doing all these budget cuts that are necessary, because they're just somehow bleeding cash. I don't know, but in talent are what the problem is apparently for WWE. It's not the Saudi Arabia deal that they're making. They made how much off of that Saudi Arabia deal? I think you were the one that sent me the link to it was something egregious that they're making off of the earth.
I think it was more than 20 million. I think maybe like 20 to 40 million dollars per show, somewhere around there.
Yeah, like that, and the whole Peacock deal. They made, I think it was like a billion. Was it $1 billion over the 5 years?
Yes,
and same with
I
Fox.
think so.
Yeah, so. I don't know exactly what these quote unquote budget cuts are for, but anyway, I digress. So, all right, well, cool. It sounds like this was a show that was absolutely worth the money that you spent. Again, not ringside, absolutely, but again, even in the upper level that you were in, would you say it was worth the price of admission?
Oh, most definitely above and beyond. Yeah.
Did they say when they're coming back? Usually they do that at the end.
Surprisingly, they did. And another thing that surprised me, I'm not sure if this is, like I said, I haven't been to a show in a couple of weeks. I'm very used to, when the show started, they had somebody sing the national anthem. They actually didn't sing the national anthem. Pledge of Allegiance, nothing, because people that are not familiar with we are a huge military area. I mean, we have a military base in Norfolk, and quite a few others in the surrounding area. So I was actually very surprised that they did that. I hope they didn't offend any of the military that was in the audience, but that was just really surprising to me.
I think I have the answer for you. It's it's not because Norfolk is not militarily driven, but just given the current political environment worldwide, I think that they probably didn't. That's my guess. That's only my guess, but I think that has a lot to do with it. There's just politically, there's just too much going on that they maybe didn't want anything happening or people booing or whatever. Like that's my guess. But I could be wrong. But yeah, every event I've ever been to does start with that, and it was usually like Lillian Garcia who would do it. And God, she's such a great voice. I do miss her. But yeah, that's my guess. I could be totally wrong on that. And it was just some other ancillary reason, but it's a little bit coincidental. So yeah. All right. Well, cool. I am jealous that you had the time to do that. I'm jealous. Yeah. Because I mean, even like going out to dinner, like my wife's trying to plan just a quick dinner, going out to a restaurant with her friends. And we have to plan this like weeks and weeks and weeks in advance. It's like, it's ridiculous, right? Like, I mean, I love, what I have, but just your former life afforded just so much freedom that you took for granted. I got to say. Oh. God,
yeah, because I'm same boat too. Ticket, and it's so funny because right before we were actually getting ready, we were getting ready to pick up from my son from school. We got a call from the school that he got in trouble. We picked up my daughter from the sitter, and they were like, "Oh, we think she had an allergic reaction to X, Y, and Z." And like, why is all this happening before we're going to the show? I said, "I don't care. We're going.
Yeah. Like, is she okay? Okay, good. We're going. Right. Yeah. Like, yes. I mean, that's Murphy's Law. Eventually, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. But you're like, screw this. I'm going. I need wrestling in my life. You haven't been to an event, you said, in a few years. And that it's therapeutic. And I really do miss the energy of a live audience, in person, and especially the loud environment that you had. I mean, it must have been such a great feeling to be back after all of us have watched at home for so long now, and to have that energy and remind yourself, like why you're a wrestling fan. Like that's cool.
Exactly. And, a lot of people give the company grief, especially for everything that is going on here recently within the last couple of months and the last couple of years. But I just want people to remember that you might not support Vince and Bruce Pritchard and Johnny Lazaro, all those people that make the decisions, but go out and support the talent, because your ticket sales are going to the talent. And the shows that they put on night after night, and blood, sweat, and tears that they bleed into the company, go out and support the stars. You'll have an amazing time. Trust me when I say this. Even though I sat in nosebleed, I felt like I was sitting ringside. So if you see WWE coming to your town, definitely go.
Yeah, that's a really good point to make. It's it is the livelihood of those individuals, and it's I know a lot of people say, oh well, they make millions, they don't need any money. And again, I just bring it back to, well, yeah, they a lot of them do make a lot of money, but they also don't get their travel and things paid for. They have to pay taxes. They don't get taxed. They're independent contractors, so they have to likely pay thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, in taxes every year. Their health insurance, they don't have health insurance because, again, they're not employees of the company. And it's not how much you make, it's how much you save. So they could be making, even in say Roman Reigns' case, he makes clearly more than $1 million. Say he makes $10 million a year, I don't know, $5 million a year. Well, what if he's spending, $4.5 million of that a year? Well, he's, again, it's all about the lifestyle and how much you're actually spending. So again, you see this in your life where, somebody doesn't have a high salary. Maybe they're making like 20, 30,000 a year, but yet they have more money than somebody that's making 100,000 a year. It's because that person making $100,000 a year has the big house, they got all the cars, but they have a crap pile of debt behind it that you don't see. So anyway, my point is, yes, you're right. If you don't even support maybe the creative decisions or things that WWE has done, but you respect the talent that are there to help, or to help better themselves, feed their family, and entertain you and put their body and life on the line, then yeah, that's a good reason to go. Definitely. So let's touch a little bit on Monday Night Raw, because I know, like, obviously you weren't there, at least as far as I know. And the big thing that came out of this for me was Kevin Owens. We're not going to go through everything, but just a couple of the big things. Kevin Owens apparently does turn heel. I'm going to consider this a heel turn, even though I think Big E deserved it. That's just me. However, in WWE world, this is a heel turn for Kevin Owens. Attacking Big E, the ring apron bomb on Big E looked brutal. I mean, God, that has to hurt. So what did you make of Kevin Owens snapping on Big E at the end of Raw?
I actually agreed with you for what you said on the Raw review this week, where I personally felt like more like it was retaliation from him getting the big ending the previous week. I mean, if I was Kevin Owens, that's what I would have done. But of course, I guess WWE wants to push it in the direction of a heel turn for him, because I guess it makes more sense. It would be interesting if they actually, tie in the previous heel turn that he did when he turned on the New Day, if they kind of bring that back into light with what's going on right now. But honestly, Big E deserved it. I don't like Big E, sorry.
Oh, you're breaking my heart, Amanda. Come on. We're big, yeah, we are huge Big E supporters on the show. But that is true that Big E deserved it. However, in WWE's logic, and in fans that believe this was a heel turn would say, is that, well, if it was just retaliation, he wouldn't have gone to the lengths that he did. He would have just maybe hit a stunner and do tit for tat. And instead he brutalized Big E, and that was the difference. It's the intensity of the beatdown that didn't equate to just the big ending, the belly flop that he received the week before. So that to me was the reason why in WWE's mind they turned KO heel, and it gives someone, Big E, another person to work with. So before Kevin Owens leaves, hopefully for AEW in a few months.
Yeah, it's a shame that what WWE has done with Kevin Owens, because he's amazing. I mean, I feel like from day one they have not seen the full potential of him, because he doesn't fit the WWE mold. He is independent, and I just felt like they have really dropped the ball on the opportunity of what they could have done with Kevin Owens.
Yeah, they have, and I think that, again, this is just all speculation, but the one thing that's not speculation is the tweet that Kevin Owens put out a while ago saying, basically a countdown to the end of January. Yep. Presumably right after the Royal Rumble is when KO is out the door, and I hope he is out the door, because if I was Kevin, and WWE knew that I was on my way out, and they were trying to entice me to stay by giving me maybe more money and promises of championship runs and things, I wouldn't care. To me, and Kevin Owens probably, I'm guessing feels the same way, that, look, if I'm leaving WWE, the biggest wrestling promotion in the world, then there's got to be some serious reasons for that. Number one, the culture, it's got to be toxic. And from everything we've heard from people that have left and done podcasts and interviews after, have confirmed that. So to me, the culture out. It's the really not maximizing my ability and my potential. That's been seen many times throughout Kevin Owens' career. The start-stop, the disappearing for weeks. All of a sudden he's on a KO show, then he's not. Then he's in a championship match and he's not. There's been almost no consistency with Kevin. Yes, he's had a championship run, Universal Champion. However, he was handed that by Triple H. Literally handed that by Triple H. So how much you want to call that a legit run is up for debate. So on top of that, it's the fact that he has a lot of friends in AEW. He has a lot of people that he would love to be able to reunite with. It's a much more or a less controlled environment, much more in charge of your own creative. And I think he feels maybe he's done everything that he can probably do in WWE, and they're just going to give him lip service to try to stay. I mean, like I would not, if I was KO, listen to anything they have, any kind of lies that they want to try to sell me, to keep me, so AEW can't have me. But I think AEW fits KO so much better. Like you said, he's an independent guy. He never felt like a true WWE guy.
Exactly. Yeah. If KO smart, chuck the deuces and be out when your contract ends.
That's a perfect way to sum that up. Yes. But on the flip side, again, we're just limiting our Raw talk here, but Seth Rollins, how do you view his work so far as this kind of hybrid burn it down messiah visionary, this kind of mesh of a character that he's put together? Are you enjoying what Seth Rollins is doing?
I love Seth freaking Rollins. I feel like he has finally figured out who he is. I mean, from his off the wall outfit that he comes out with every week to just how his in-ring presence is now. I'm one of those people too that also felt like some of the losses that he's had has done him a disservice. Honestly, WWE should have had him beat Edge, excuse me, at the Hell in a Cell at Crown Jewel. But hopefully, as time goes on, he will have matches that'll kind of redeem himself. But honestly, I cannot wait to see him take the belt off of Big E.
I can't agree more. When do you think, because I've surveyed people and I'm getting different answers, when do you think that's actually going to happen? Do you think he will? And when?
I think he will, because I don't think WWE is getting the response that they thought they would as having Big E as champion. I mean, yeah, you can kind of hear the crowd cheering, but again, you don't know how much of that is manipulated or how much of it is a real crowd cheers. I feel like they are trying to push Big E to be the next John Cena, and he's just not going to be that guy. He's a great person, but he just doesn't have that character that I think that it connects with fans the way like a John Cena, a Triple H, a Stone Cold, a Rock did. Excuse me. So I'm thinking, I don't think they'll push it to WrestleMania. I mean, it would still be a hell of a match if they did push it to WrestleMania. Maybe Royal Rumble. It's kind of hard to tell at this point, but I do think Seth Rollins is going to be the one that takes the belt off Big E.
I can't see anybody else that would have a chance. I mean, Kevin Owens, again, you could have Kevin Owens as a stand-in for now. I mean, it's fine. I love his work. I love his mic work. I love how he doesn't fit the mold. I like how he looks like the common man. He's just got this gravitational pull to him, even as a heel. I'm enjoying everything that Kevin Owens does. That said, I think that looking at the roster, though, there's nobody else. Who else is on that roster that even is in the conversation to take the belt off of Big E and be at that level? There's nobody. So to me, Seth Rollins is the guy. He's the only guy. And I do think it probably will be at the Rumble at the absolute latest. But if there's a pay-per-view in December, I could see them having the match there. But on the flip side, are they going to be hesitant for not pulling the trigger because maybe they're going to get backlash for not, quote unquote, giving Big E a true run with the belt? Or do they feel like they're going to cut it short and get backlash from fans that, you didn't give him a real run, all that kind of stuff? I mean, do you think that they could pull the trigger in December, or like you said, maybe Rumble?
The only thing that I think WWE could do, I think it would totally blow fans' minds and would never expect it, is if Seth pulls another heist of the century, and if at his match that Big E is going to have against Roman Reigns at Survivor Series, because of course we know Big E is not going to beat Roman, if he uses his contract to cash in on the belt at the Survivor Series pay-per-view.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, I mean, because as we all know, this is a playground pay-per-view with zero consequences, none. Like there's nothing on the line except pride and a manufactured rivalry. So that would be awesome. Now, I don't know if, and it hasn't been stipulated to us, if that's how the contract can work. Can it work like a Money in the Bank briefcase? We don't know. He's carrying it around like a Money in the Bank briefcase, so maybe, I hope. That would be a big story coming out of the pay-per-view. I think Seth would have ultra heat on him, but I wonder if something like that wouldn't put heat on him, but rather the fans would be smartened up enough to know and to say, hey, no, this is on the company. Like, I know we're not going to play along. Like, this is WWE. This is Vince that we're putting the heat on. So while they would hope that the heat would transfer to Seth, and I would go along with it, but I feel like a lot of fans maybe would say, no, we're not playing with this. This heat, this is on Vince. So they got to be careful. I'm all for it. I mean, I wouldn't care if they stripped Big E on social media, where they, I wouldn't care if they did it in a parking lot, in the middle of the night, where somebody caught some footage of Seth beating down Big E and there's a referee there and he's able to cash in there. I mean, if you can cash it in like that, I mean, I really wouldn't care. But yeah, so I think it's going to happen. You and I are in lockstep with that. I think it's going to happen, and probably in the next month to 2 months, with Seth going into WrestleMania as champion. So 2 last quick things, and then we'll close it out here. Bobby Lashley returned and beat up Dominic Mysterio. What did you think?
Oh, glory. I mean, I'm hoping that this beatdown will kind of make Dominic come off the main roster a little bit and maybe do some more developmental work. I'm not sure what the WWE's end game is with him getting the beat down from Lashley, if it's to write him off or just to make a big splash with Bobby Lashley coming back and having MVP come back too, which was awesome. I know he had been out. I think it was for knee replacement surgery. So it was good to see Bobby come back, but I just want to know what's really going to be in store for Bobby, post Survivor Series. And plus too, is he going to be a team player with his team on Survivor Series? Is everybody going to be fighting each other, kind of like how the women were on SmackDown this past week? But I'm hoping endgame will be that this will actually start building up for Brock versus Lashley.
That's exactly how I viewed this on Monday Night Raw, where Lashley has absolved himself of the Goldberg nonsense. That's gone, even though he lost. I mean, it's that time away that he took, the several weeks, cleansed the palate, I think, for me in a way. And I think most fans, where it's like, okay, yeah, let's just move the hell on. And that's fine, and I do believe, as you said, it is kind of a refresh for the dominant Bobby Lashley to come back, where he seems absolutely unbeatable, to eventually face Brock. Now, when he faces Brock is another question, because does Brock face Roman at WrestleMania? Does Drew face Roman at WrestleMania, which does free up Brock? There are a lot of possibilities there, but I do believe, as you said, it is a restart, a refresh for Bobby to eventually go face-to-face with Brock, and that'll be a lot of fun. I'm whenever that does happen, that'll be a lot of fun. But in the meantime, Dominic getting destroyed, I mean, it was another just amazing moment in my life. I mean, I was having a bad day at work, and I'm like, this makes it all worth it. Like, seeing Dominic get destroyed, it's like watching him beat up a high school kid. And I don't mean that like I want to see high school kids get beat up, but Dominic, I'm sorry, does not look the part. I know he's got his daddy's name, which is the reason he's there, and he's good in the ring. I'll give him that. But he's as boring as he's like the wallpaper in your house. Like, no one pays attention to it. He's not interesting on the microphone. He's got no personality. When he does act, it's terrible. But he's good in the ring, and he's got his dad's name. So he's got that going for him, but that's it. So seeing Bobby come back and do what he did, I'm that's good. But I'm concerned that now it's going to be Rey Mysterio versus Bobby for a while. I think that's probably where they're going. So it'll be another, impossibly long program. Everything Rey does just lasts forever. For whatever reason, they put Rey Mysterio in a program, and they're like, all right, Rey, this is what you're doing for the next 8 to 12 months. So, settle in. So I hope that it's not the case, and this is just a one-off where, they build to a pay-per-view match and then it's done.
Yeah, exactly. Because I couldn't sit through, like you said, a 5 to 6 month program of Bobby Lashley versus Rey Mysterio. I mean, no disrespect to Rey Mysterio. I love Rey Mysterio, but I just feel like that's an insult to Bobby Lashley. I'm like, out of anybody you can have him have a program with, now you're just going to stick him with Rey Mysterio? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Again, it's a hold me over. It's just it's kind of like, hey, we need something for you to do. That's what they look at this program for. I don't expect Rey to win. if that's where they're going. But I don't see how Ray doesn't try to get revenge on Bobby. I mean, it's got to happen. So, all right. The final thing I want to ask about is not Doudrop turning heel. Oh, that was interesting. But really, Liv Morgan getting the victory. Yeah, I mean, you can mention Doudrop, of course. She was involved in this match. But Liv Morgan getting a victory to earn a Raw Women's Championship match. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm two-sided on this. I'm happy to see Liv finally get a big opportunity like this, but I'm afraid it might be a little bit too soon. I feel like WWE is going about it wrong. I think they should have built it up to keep having Liv be the underdog and then have her like maybe win the Royal Rumble and go on to WrestleMania and then maybe beat Becky Lynch. I mean, I think it would be a really good match between the two of them, but I feel like the buildup is being wrong because I don't want them to be like, all right, she's won this match. Now she's going to fight Becky and like, they'll probably have her fight her on Raw in 2 or 3 weeks. She loses, and then Becky goes on to another program. And then Liv is just going to keep getting buried under the undercard or losing matches to Carmella. Ugh, just don't get me started on Carmella. But I'm happy she won, but I don't think WWE is going about it the right way. I'm worried. I'm very worried.
I will say this. To me, I don't think anyone believes that Liv is going to beat Becky in the first try. I shouldn't say nobody. I think most people believe that Becky is going to retain whenever Liv does get her opportunity. And since Survivor Series is completely consumed by a made-up rivalry between Raw and SmackDown, you can't have it there. So that leads us to the next pay-per-view in presumably December, if there is one. And this to me is, if I was WWE, I would use this, and maybe this is what they're doing, using this as a litmus test where, okay, Liv doesn't win, but she shows really good fight. She has some hope spots. There's a convincing moment or two where people believe she could win. Ultimately, Becky cheats to win. Now, I think that's probably how it goes, by the way. And WWE is going to look at this and say, okay, how does the crowd react? Do they get angry? Do they not care? Are they apathetic? Like, what's the reaction to that? Is there some kind of uproar on Twitter? So I think they're going to use this as a way to go, okay, is this worth us putting in that time for a long-term story for Liv? That's how I would do it, because there's been a lot of talk about her being a sympathetic favorite, that she's underutilized, all this, and I agree with that, but I think they're going to test that theory, and they're going to test that to the fans and say, okay, if you really feel that way, we're going to give you a scenario where we're going to screw her over for the championship and see how you react. If you don't react, or you're just kind of like, oh, well, that's too bad. Who's Becky's next contender? They're not going to do jack with Liv. They're just going to continue to, I think, keep her where she is. But if there's an actual movement for her, then they may indeed pull the trigger on her as a long-term challenger and do the long road with her, as you mentioned about, you know, kind of struggling and scratching and clawing and getting screwed over, but you know eventually the time is coming for her to be champion. So I look at this championship match when it happens as a test by WWE to see if fans truly want her to be champion, or if it's just one of those things that, yeah, they thought they did, but not really.
And that does make sense because I have noticed that Liv Morgan has a huge social media following, especially on Twitter. So I think WWE better be very careful, because if they have a scenario where Becky cheats to win, social media is going to go nuts.
And that'll be good. If it goes nuts, then that is a good thing for Liv. If people just kind of ho-hum about it and they care, but not really, and it doesn't last long, maybe there's only uproar for like, you know, a few hours and then it dies down and people move on to the next thing, then they're going to look at that and go, yeah, that's a flash in the pan. It may not be worth it. You know, I think that, to me, and it could be wrong, but I don't believe that they're all in yet, and they're going to do a test case and see if they should. So, That's my, I could be wrong, but all right. So that, I mean, there's all this stuff that happened on Raw, guys, but if you want the full review, of course, you can check out our Monday Night Raw review. Amanda, was there anything else that I didn't mention? Then this is the floor is yours, up to you. Was there anything else I didn't mention that you wanted to, topic wise or anything?
No, I think we pretty much covered a lot of the stuff. Just like I said, guys, if you have an event coming to your area, definitely go. Please cheer for who needs to be cheered and boo for who needs to be booed.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah, even if you don't pour your money in, the way you can support that person, because the management listens to the voices, you can also, give them the currency of your voice and cheer. You said cheer or boo, be loud, and that does make a difference because management does listen. They are forced to, even if they drown it out in post production. They definitely do. So, of course, guys, Amanda, you can check her out at on the Wrestling News Brief that she does. And what is your Twitter for those that may not have it yet?
I am at Amanda_Gynn. That is GYNN.
Not GIN, right? I'm sure that's
no.
I'm sure that's been proposed to you more than once, right? So, all right. Well, Amanda, thank you as always, and it's always fun talking with you in the Discord chat. By the way, guys, if you want to go in that Discord chat, you can do so on Patreon. It's up to you if you want to join us there. But for $1, you can and get everything ad free, and you don't have to skip ahead or whatever else you do with the ads, and join us on the on that Discord that is active not just during pay-per-views but really every day. I see you guys chatting in there and ranting or sharing wrestling information or whatever else, talking about rumors. It's a lot of fun to be in there. So guys, thank you so much for listening, and of course, Amanda, thank you for being here tonight. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, thanks for having me. Can't wait to do it next time.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.